everybody. Welcome back to HGO, the show where we talk about everything that's hot in the world of gaming. I'm one of your hosts, Ethan, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host with the co-most. It's Hunter. Hey, Hunter. How you doing?
So earlier today, I was thinking
Oh,
about,
God, here we go. Go on.
If I were to make a horror game, what would I make one of the monsters? And one of the things I settled on was a swarm of bees,
Yes.
but they're invisible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Am I missing something, or is that just the thing? Is that
Just think about how terrifying it would be to be suddenly swarmed by something like bees, but not be able to see them.
I mean, yeah, you have got a point. It would be pretty terrifying. It also
I would make them like
me.
pop in. I would make it pop in and out occasionally, so that it'd be like obviously there's something there, and then you get glimpses of it, and you'd be like, you're doing swell by the way.
Yeah, nice. It's good to hear. It's like you're doing that. I'm looking at this little mark here on my shirt, and I'm like, is that a logo or is that like a weird thing? And it is it's a part of the design, but I'm like, why is it a thing? Anyway, hey guys, welcome back to Hot Gamers Only. Where each and every week we come together to talk about everything that we love in the world of gaming. Reminder: you can find us on podcast services everywhere, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, you name it, we're on it. Go to linktree/hotgamersonly. linktr.ee/hotgamersonly. Find your favourite podcast platform, listen to us there, or if you want to see our beautiful faces, why don't you listen on the old YouTubes, and you can see both me and Hunter and see what we're on about when I talk about these terrible marks that are on my shirt. You can go to bit.ly/HGOYT, and hey, while you're there, hit us with a subscription so we can get to 100 subscribers and have a custom URL finally. bit.ly/HGOYT. We hope you all had like a really interesting week. We've got a lot to talk about. What was originally planned to be the Persona 5 Strikers First Impressions cast has very quickly turned into that plus a hell of a lot more because the gaming industry woke up this week from its hibernation.
They were like, let's go.
Hell yeah. You know it's serious, guys. I'm drinking soda. You know it's a serious week because we mean business. We have got PlayStation State of Play. We have got the Pokemon Presents presentation/direct, and then we have Persona 5 Strikers. So timestamps in the description, folks. That's for you guys on audio and on video. I do it for the audio podcast as well. For those of you that don't know. Look in the description. If you are here for Persona, which we know that 90% of you are here for if you're listening to our opinions because you've listened to this podcast long enough, there's a timestamp. So if you don't care about State of Play, if you don't care about the Pokemon opinions that we have, then head on down to the timestamp below and we'll get to you with Persona. But we thought for everyone that doesn't want to just listen to an hour of Persona to get to 5 minutes of PlayStation, that we talk about the other two things first. So let's start with State of Play, Hunter. Let's start with State of Play. We're just going to go straight into it because it's a massive show we have this week. PlayStation State of Play was on Thursday. It was an interesting presentation. I'll throw it to you first. What did you think?
I thought it was alright. You know, they didn't announce anything mind-blowing, but they didn't say that they would. They said it was just going to be... I was expecting mostly just looks at pre-existing things, and that's what we got, aside from the reveal of Sifu, I believe it was called, which looks pretty cool.
People were loving that on Twitter, and I was like, I don't know. Like, everyone else was like, this looks cool, and I was like, yeah, it looks cool. I don't know why everyone's falling in love with it, but hey, everyone seemed to really like it. It seemed to be a standout.
Yeah, I mean, off of just the trailer, I was like, okay, that looks like it could be potentially interesting. Then when I heard people talking about like its little blurb on its website or whatever, being this dude that apparently his family got killed and he rededicated his life to just martial arts so he could go take revenge. I'm like, I do like revenge stories. It's
the classic, man. It's the classic. But no, it does look interesting. And from what I've seen, it's got a good team behind it. So hey, I'm sure it's going to be great. I'm sure a lot of people are looking forward to it. So a rundown. I don't know about you. How did you? I said this to you in discussion as I should say that we either talked about it straight after. We talked about it straight after. We didn't talk. We actually just messaged about each other. And I remember saying I knew that as soon as we saw Crash 4 as the first game, that set the tone for the showcase straight away. Because I was like, okay, nothing big's happening if they're starting with Crash 4 again.
Yeah, you'd figure if they had like something big, it'd either be at the beginning or
which
end.
They did have something big at the end that I remember saying to you, I'm like, I know what it is. and you were like, "Oh, that'd be cool if it was," and it was, and I was like, "Hell yeah,
Yeah.
love it when I'm right. It's great. It's a great feeling. It happens so little these days that I'm grateful when it does." But so yeah, Crash 4 still looks great. Glad to see that it's still getting love. Glad to see that Activision isn't charging you for it like they are with Tony Hawk. It was weird to see that Tony Hawk wasn't in there, actually, and come to think of it, because that's also coming out in March, the next-gen version, so it's weird that they didn't have both of them.
Activision is really weird about how they're... Like, you'd figure that if they were going to do something for one thing, they would do it for the other one, too.
Mm-hmm. But they never do.
But, no, I don't understand them.
Yeah, it's like they charged you a $10 upgrade fee for Call of Duty and Tony Hawk, but Crash 4 is free, and I'm like, okay... That's weird. I understand the Tony Hawk's. I'm like, okay, it was already a cheaper title, so I can kind of understand. But I'm like, Activision's Activision. Why the hell aren't they charging $10 for Crash? I'm surprised. I'm not going to complain. But hey, so there you go. That's coming out later in March. Another big interesting thing that I thought we should talk about is they showed Oddworld Soulstorm again, which is starting to become the one thing that just keeps showing up. It's the Godfall of 2021 at this stage.
Yeah, now that Godfall has come out and they don't have anything to say anymore, because what can you say about that game besides it's the most launch game I've ever seen.
And it came out at launch, and that's about it. That's all you can say about it. Yeah, exactly. But
now that that's happened, I feel like Oddworld's kind of just taken up that place of thing I'm seeing too much.
Which it's a better game to be taking your time.
To be fair. That actually looks like, it was in a creation of love and not just cobbled together trends.
Mm-hmm. Because I know Lorne Lining and all of the team over at Oddworld really have a passion for what they make. And I know their audience is extremely passionate for what they make. It's just a very small audience, so every time that it keeps coming up in these big presses, I'm like, I can respect Oddworld, but what is the normie thinking? What is the little Timmy that's just here to check out who's basically here for Horizon, which they didn't get? What are they thinking when they see that stuff like Oddworld? And I'm like, I don't know. But hey, free on Plus, which I don't think anyone was expecting.
Yeah, it's a good move too, because this is I don't think the number is going to jump up like super exponentially, but there's definitely going to be more people who try it because they'll get it for free than they would have if you had to buy it.
I think it's a really good jumping in point for people with Oddworld. I think it's going to be one of those things where, it's not a massive game. They probably weren't expecting huge sales. They're expecting some sales, I assume, but they weren't expecting like these huge numbers. So Plus might give them that reach, at least with PS5. All those PS5 players that have got their massive consoles that they're doing nothing with because no games are coming out. The fact that they get Oddworld Soulstorm for free, I'm sure a load of people are going to check it out now, which is good for them. And I'm sure they'll make a ton of money from this PlayStation deal like everyone else has. So yeah. I think that was a good push. We saw more Kenna, which
that looks real good.
I feel like that is going to be one of the games of this year, and I'm not saying that because every other game's getting pushed out of this year like the plague, but
nah, it does look like it's going to be really good.
There's something about the art direction, the art style, the cinematography of that game is something else. Like when everyone says, like, you always hear it when you've got these animated games, like you've got like these kind of wacky art style games like Crash. Yeah, you got Crash and Ratchet, and it's like, they look like Pixar animation, but the flow of the camera and the way that the characters are actually moving in Kenna with the cutscenes, you can tell that it is actually made by a team that's mainly worked in animation. It actually does look like an animated film come to life, and I'm so looking forward to it.
Yeah, which people don't discuss that a lot of the time when it comes to like visual presentation, is how they move around the camera and stuff. Like, I kind of pay attention to that here and there because Kojima, being movie buff that he was, would implement stuff like that into Metal Gear.
Yeah,
all
exactly.
The time. Like in MGS5, there were so many single take quote camera shots where it'd just be like just one long thing, and I'd be like, oh man, this is really cool.
Yeah, I agree, but no, it looks like is it sad that it got delayed a bit? I think everyone saw the delay was coming. Like, I don't think anyone was
it's supposed to come out in March, but it's the end.
I don't think anyone
we haven't heard anything about it.
It's a big delay, but man, that game looks gorgeous and I can't wait to play it. In all honesty.
I am jazzed for it.
It looks great. It looks great. So there were a couple of other things. Do you remember anything other than the ending? I don't have the list up next to me, so I can't.
We saw
double
more
check.
of Returnal.
That is true.
Yeah, more of Returnal showed more of a comprehensive look at the gameplay, at least more comprehensive than what we saw before. Right?
Yeah.
All I could remember from seeing it before was screen with a lot of projectiles coming at you on the screen.
Mm-hmm. The only thing I remember of it last time was everyone thought it was PT because of that scene, and then everyone got angry. And they did it again in this one. They showed the same scene again in this one. And
they showed the house at the end, and I'm like, oh man, this looks like the house from Resident Evil 7 now.
They changed it up, but no. Yeah. What are you thinking? Because this is your kind of game, Hunter. I feel like this is your kind of jam.
Yeah, I'm happy that that was the one where I'm like, I want to have a PS5 before this comes out, so that I'll be able to get it, because it looks very, quick-paced shooter.
Yeah.
Got the dash and stuff. It looks like it will essentially be, not to oversimplify things, but kind of Doom-like, but in third person.
I get that, yeah.
Which, yeah, I'm all about.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this trailer to me really, it made me finally understand what Returnal was. With what we had seen we'd seen some cinematics in the past on PlayStation State of Play, and we saw some gameplay, and there was a part of me that was kind of like, okay, I see two single ones, now how are they coming together to make two? You know what I mean? Like, I can see the two separate parts, how are they going to make a whole? And I finally, with this gameplay, I was like, I understand now what this game is. I kind of get the idea of what they're going for. It makes more sense of how the two elements add each other up, and it does look interesting.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how it goes. The anime designs are fascinating too. Like, I noticed one of them had so many teeth.
A few too many, yeah. So yeah, we had a look at that. They showed that Five Nights at Freddy's game again, and I'm sure all 12 Five Nights at Freddy's fans.
That with, if you like scary games, this one will be one to pay attention to. And I was like, oh, and then I realized what it was, and I was like,
I saw what it was. Yeah, as soon as they said, if you like scary game, this is for you. And as soon as I saw that it was Five Nights at Freddy's, I'm not lying, I walked away for 3 minutes. I didn't even watch the trailer. I was just like, I'm gonna go grab a drink. It's drink break time, like that was the kind of game for me.
I mean, the one thing I noticed while kind of rolling my eyes and looking at this trailer was they have added the wonderful innovation of being able to walk into this series now.
Nice.
But still, those games, it still just doesn't look scary.
It doesn't look scary, but I will give it to the team that is making this game. It does it's starting to resemble to me like an actual video game. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's fair.
Five Nights at Freddy's, like the original franchise to me, is very B-movie horror-esque, where it feels like it's scrapped assets from different projects and like kind of cobbled together in this really rough kind of draft of a video game. Whereas when I look at the models, when I look at the assets of this game, it is starting to look to me like where I'm like, oh, this looks like the first Five Nights at Freddy's game that looks like they've put the money that they've made into it a bit. It's still not interesting to me, but I do like that they're at least trying with it.
But I will give it that it does look like it is a step beyond what they used to be.
It looks like they're trying.
Because, the only one I ever played was the first one. I'm like, no, I don't like this. And then every time after that, I saw 2, 3, 12, however many they made. And
it's close. It's close.
They don't look any different. I'm not going to try this to say I don't like it again, because they don't look different at all.
Yeah, I feel it.
At least to me, on the outside there. I'm sure there's some kind of stupid science behind what's different about them, but I don't care. But this one does look a bit more... Yeah, I mean, you can move around. I think one of the first things that I said upon, giving the first one a look was... It'd be kind of interesting if you could move around and it was like a game of cat and mouse, which is what this looks like. But
instead of it just being camera simulator, yeah.
But now it runs into the thing of, now it just seems to be one of those Amnesia bootlegs where you're just running away from a thing that you can't hurt.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm interested in not playing it, but seeing how this game's received. I could see it coming out and surprising people, but then I can also see it coming out and being exactly what everyone is expecting it to be, and just kind of being a bit of a generic kind of thing that happens. So we'll see what happens with it. But they're promoting it a lot, so I feel like they're trying to get this game some kind of audience that isn't just the regular Five Nights at Freddy's crowd. Because they already know that Five Nights at Freddy's fans are going to buy this game regardless. They don't have to market it at all. In fact, the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's many times has just released the game there and then, and everyone's at it up.
YouTube Let's Plays do the marketing for them.
Yeah, exactly. So there was that. Speaking of games that we've seen before, I feel like we should talk about Deathloop again. Because they showed another trailer for Deathloop, and I'm telling you, man,
that song was a jam.
Deathloop is going to be this year's most underrated video game. I'm going to write that down right now. Because I remember when we were talking in the fantasy draft, and I was like, I don't know if Deathloop is going to do well. And then I've watched this trailer, and I'm like, I'm a fucking idiot. It's Arcane. It's the Dishonored people. Of course this game's going to be brilliant. And looking at it, man, it looks good. It looks like it's Dishonored mixed with Bond, mixed with like a Hitman kind of game. I'm like, this looks sick. Like, honestly,
it does look real nice. That'll be one that I'm fascinated with. I'm pretty sure it comes out in the same kind of.
It's May, isn't it? Yeah, it's the end of May.
Yeah, the end of May.
We're gonna have like we're gonna have 3 or 4 weeks where you've got Ratchet, you've got Deathloop, Ratchet, and then FF7, which we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah.
You've got those in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
Man.
It's interesting. Like, the summer for this year seems crowded, which is a weird thing to say, because I feel like, last year it was basically Last of Us and Ghost of Tsushima, and then I played Persona 5 in August, and I don't feel like I missed anything while I took my break to do that.
I was similar. It was like, we had that big period of time from like last year. It was from the end of March to like June. It was basically from Persona and it was from Animal Crossing and Doom all the way to Last of Us Part 2, where we was just a stretch where there was nothing but a load of new stuff coming out. And then we had a break where Ghost came out in the late summer, but nothing else was really around it. And then you just had nothing until everything started coming out in autumn again, like it usually does, and then we're back on a break. So it'll be interesting to see how cramped this autumn is, because I think everything's getting delayed to the point where I think everyone's pushed all their stuff into summer, like all of these games, because they're scared of what's coming in the autumn, and I think nothing's going to show up in autumn. I think maybe Horizon,
which
and that's
is
about
hilarious. I mean, I'm not too bothered, because now I'm like, with Kena being pushed out of March, I've got till the end of April when Returnal comes out. That's like 2 solid months to just play things that I feel like playing. It's finally
time to dig into that backlog or replay some games that we've been saying that we wanted to for a long time. Before we talk about Final Fantasy, was there anything else? I think we've mentioned most
Solar
things.
Ash looks cool.
Oh,
now
yeah,
that we have an actual look at what it does.
Yeah, that did look interesting. It was to a point where I looked at it and I was like, someone's got this on their list, right? And then I looked and I was like, yeah, it's you. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good pick. That looks really good.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, yes, I'm glad that I picked a winner here.
It looks like a winner, man. It looks great. Yeah. The art style is really good.
Yeah, the art style was good. I kind of just... my motivation for picking it in the draft was just essentially like, Hyper Light Drifter was something people liked.
Yeah.
But now this looks like something I might actually pick up.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. So that's good.
Was there anything else?
I think that
was notable. I think that's most of the things that was notable. And then wrapping it up was the big announcement that I called. I was like, I bet you it's this. And it was kind of like it's time, but I still don't believe it. And it did happen. So Final Fantasy VII Intergrade got announced, which at first I was just expecting it to just be next gen Final Fantasy VII Remake, or the intended way to play that video game, as we now have seen the light of. I was not expecting the DLC. I was not expecting the Yuffie expansion, little 2-hour vignette thing that they're doing. But man, it looks good. It's got me excited. Yeah. It's got me to the point where I'm like, I kind of want to play Final Fantasy VII on the PS4 version again one more time before I play it for the first actual time. That's what I feel.
That's the thing. Is like Final Fantasy VII Remake is one of those games that occasionally I'll think about and like, be fun to play that again.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't act on it, because if I act on every time I think about that, I'll never play anything new ever again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So I normally don't, and if this little DLC was coming out in the next 2 months, that would be perfect. I'd be like, yes, let's just replay the whole game. Plus,
I was kind of disappointed.
Boom.
I was kind of disappointed.
And now it's coming out in June, and I'm like, oh no, that's when other things are happening.
It was like a 5-minute trailer as well, so I was like, I'm ready to play it again, As soon as Strikers is done, that's it, ready. And then it was like June, and I'm like, damn it. But no,
it's interesting. Like, I wasn't. Yuffie was not something I was expecting them to jump to for a little middling in between thing. So that's neat.
Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to play it and experience it, and I'm looking forward to playing Remake again. It'll be interesting to see if this is just like a little side thing that you click off of out of the menu, or if this is something that Nomura has inadvertently put in. Like, it'll be interesting to see what happens with this. They haven't really explained.
Going off of the little bit that we saw, it looks like it happens like back in Sector 7.
It's somewhat
around the time that Cloud got dropped into Sector 5.
I believe this is taking place simultaneously when Cloud and Aerith are doing Chapter 8 is when this takes place. So it'll be interesting because you hear about. I like hearing the Tifa and Barrett little talk that they're having, where it's like, oh, they did actually talk about losing Cloud and what they're gonna do, and how you do have Barrett being like, I'm sure he's fine, like not being an asshole about it. But man, I can't wait. It's one of my game of the years last year, if not.
Indeed.
And I can't wait to play it again. And I probably am, as soon as we finish with Strikers, going to go and sweep that platinum up so that by the time the PS5 comes out, I can do it all over again like a psychopath. But no, I'm very much looking forward to it. So on the whole, how did you feel about it? The overall thing? Because I was like, it was pretty decent. It was what I was expecting. Everyone was expecting Horizon and God of War and all these other things to show up.
Yeah, I don't know why. I feel like PlayStation's been pretty upfront with what they are going to put into these things previously.
And they usually tell you. They tell you if there's going to be big announcements.
If there's going to be new announcements, they'll say so.
Mm-hmm.
And they won't tell you exactly what they are, so it's on you to check it out, but
they would have very clearly have said they would very clearly would have said something along the lines of, and a look at one of the next big PlayStation Studios titles is probably what they would have said along those lines. Which they did show Returnal. I'm not saying that isn't a big PlayStation Studios game. It is. Well, it's not. I wouldn't consider it massive because it's still a smaller team under the PlayStation Studios banner. But it wasn't Ratchet or Horizon or any of those kind of things. But you just got to go in expecting those kind of things. So there you go.
Yeah.
I wasn't disappointed. I thought there was some really cool stuff in there, and stuff like Oddworld being free. The fact that Final Fantasy VII Remake is free on Plus next month for those of you who just want to play it on PS4. That's pretty sick.
Oh yeah, that's a good get.
You said they were hiding something, Hunter, and they were sure hiding something.
They didn't say that in the. Did
no.
They say that in the thing?
No, because they want you to buy the PS5 version.
Yeah, figures.
But no, so there you go. That is the PlayStation State of Play. Very quickly then, Hunter, I guess we should also talk about the Pokemon Presents thing. Now, I should start this off with a massive caveat of we're not the two people that should really be talking about this, because
I just realized that we're both like the two who care about Pokemon the least.
We're the two people that don't care about Pokemon in the HGO main cast. So we tried to get Sam on, but Sam's internet's too terrible because his adapter's broken or whatever, so we couldn't get him on this week to talk about it. So with a huge... we take this with a grain of salt. Our opinions you may not consider valid because we play them every now and again. I play them all when they come out casually and then never touch them again.
The last one I played when I was like 7.
And there you go.
As far as mainline ones, I played Pokken on the Wii U.
There you go. Pokken on the Wii U and plays them all casually. When the story's over, he stops playing. We're the real Pokemon fans here. Buckle up, guys. So Pokemon Presents came out. They showed more Pokemon Snap, where my favourite part of Pokemon Snap is the photo game has a photo mode. That's very cool. You'll love to see it. So that's cool.
As you would expect.
I'm not going to say, I don't feel like we should talk about Pokemon Snap really, because we've mentioned it on the podcast. We kind of understand why people like it, but at the same time, it's not our cup of tea. So we're not really going to be checking it out. Maybe Sam might check it out or someone else, but not us. Us two won't.
Yeah.
So then, here's the main two announcements. Well, the first one was the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remakes, officially titled Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Pokemon Shining Pearl. And my initial impressions are, man, did they come up with Shining Pearl and then go, fuck, what are we going to call Diamond? And then went to the fucking thesaurus and was like, brilliant? Brilliant Diamond's a terrible name. I'm sorry. It really is. But what is my opinion? I'm going to ask you, Hunter, because if people have been on my Twitter, they've seen what my opinion of the new art style is. What's your opinion of this new art style from the little bits and pieces that you've seen of Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl?
So it looks like they kind of made, or it looks like they tried to make an attempt to be something similar to the Link's Awakening remakes art style, but I feel like it missed the mark.
Right.
Here, as an example, let's say the Link's Awakening remake is this nice little figure of red here, you know, detailed, got the cute eyes and all that. And then the Pokemon remakes seem to be the Pop Final equivalent.
I would like to thank everyone that liked my tweet for the tweet of me saying where I photoshopped Pokemon Funko Diamond and Pokemon Pop Pearl. It was a great tweet. It got it got like nearly 50 likes. I appreciate it, guys. I love the fact that everyone ignores my tweets, but as soon as I shit post, everyone's like, "I'll be there." But here's my problem: right? A load of people don't like the art style, and I said this on Twitter. I'm like, art styles are subjective. What really matters is the game at the end of the day, because you're always going to have people that love the art style. You're always going to have people that hate the art style. It really doesn't matter. You can't say to people your opinion's wrong on the art style, because art styles are always personal preference. Let's get that started. My problem is a lot of people. When I want a Pokemon remake, the whole idea to me of Pokemon remakes, they did it with Fire Red, they did it with Omega Ruby, they did it with Soul Silver, is if we were to make this generation of Pokemon in the way that we do our current generation of Pokemon, how would we do it? That's what Omega Ruby very much was like at X and Y. Heart Gold and Soul Silver was very much like the original Platinum and Diamond and Pearl. And Fire Red and Leaf Green were very much like Gen 3. They weren't just Gen 1 again. They were Gen 1 in Gen 3. Gen 2 in Gen 4. Etc. This to me, what I wanted was, as much as people love or hate Gen 8, I wanted Gen 4 in Gen 8. I wanted to see that glow up, that attempt at something being made. And to me, this isn't it, because it is like genuinely a one-for-one kind of remake, which is fine. But to me, I don't see a point in remaking Pokemon games when the old ones are still there, unless you're trying to do it with the 8 years of experience that you've added on since then, and doing it with the different things. That's just my personal opinion.
I guess
on that.
One advantage is weren't Diamond and Pearl specifically like really slow?
Yes.
So I guess at least, if you play these, it'll be faster than
I assume they will be. But to me, when you're remaking a Pokemon game, you're not just doing it for the sake of it. Yeah. You're not doing it for the sake of it. So that was my first problem. And the second problem was, everyone said that Gen 8 has a generic art style. And I'll say, fair enough, but if this is also generic in different ways, you can't say that this is a diverse and exciting art style when it is also extremely generic as well.
Yeah, it wouldn't.
It's not really... Link's Awakening.
Yeah.
It's what if a small team, because it's a small team making this, it's not even Game Freak making it. What if a small team tried to do that and it just doesn't, to me, it just doesn't look right. Fair enough if you like it. Fair enough if you like how one-to-one it is. To me, it just looks like a mobile game. It doesn't look like a Nintendo Switch game. And that's just my opinion personally. The battles look great. The models in there look like I'd expect them to do. For Dawn and whatever the male character's called, because I always forget the male characters' names because it's easy for the female characters because it's just the name from the anime. Yeah. But whatever the male character's name is, to me, it's just the art style just looks so generic and boring, and it's just like Gen 8 was also generic, but then even if they did it in Gen 8 style, they would have had to completely reimagine how Sinnoh looks and feels to do that. So I would have been like, yeah, the art style's generic, but they've had to put a lot of work in. Here, the art style's generic, and it looks like the exact same game. So I'm sure some people are going to be really happy. But for me, when I look at remakes, I like the changes. I don't want things to be the exact same experience, because if I wanted the exact same experience, I'd pull out my DS and play it right now, because I can do that. Yeah. So there you go. That's my opinions on Diamond and Pearl. But I know other people like it. So hey, if you like that art style, good for you. If you hate it, don't attack people on the internet about hating it, about liking it, and the same way for liking it. Remember, people aren't just haters. They can have constructive criticism or dislike things.
Yeah.
Let's remember it both ways. Because, hey,
I mean, yeah, it's really, as long as the art style doesn't get in the way somehow, it's not good. That's never really been a deal breaker for me. It's always just been something that definitely enhances it. Like Supergiant games, you'll always know what they are because of their very distinct style, or like Persona 5, very distinct in what it looks like.
I'm gonna get my tweet up right now, and I'll read it to you. I replied to someone about this because I feel like this is my stance. Art styles tend to be personal preference, so you're always going to have people that love or hate it. Hopefully the gameplay of the game speaks for itself, so that people will love it and end up loving it regardless. That's the whole idea, is you can turn someone around on an art style if it plays well. If the game is playing well and people like the way that it plays, hey, people are going to like the game. But at the same time, people can hate an art style. You're not forced to love it. They aren't, like, it's a personal preference. So I see both sides of the argument. But hey, that's where we lie. The more interesting announcement was Pokemon Legends Arceus, which is Pokemon Breath of the Wild.
That is what people like to be saying.
What are your thoughts on it, Hunter?
Well, it looks like an open world Pokemon game, which is something that people have been asking for forever. Yeah, I don't know. Probably need to see more of it.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of panning shots. Yeah.
Yeah, they did the Breath of the Wild shot, like the one where Link's running from the plateau. Almost.
And it didn't look incredible either. It wasn't like a breathtaking moment. I was like, oh, it's like... It just didn't look as nice.
So, it's interesting that they seem to be trying to invoke that comparison almost, because from what I saw of the gameplay there, Breath of the Wild, half the reason it's so good is not just because it's this massive open area, it's because of all of the systems that go into interacting with you. And it looks like the Pokemon there, their interactions tend to be, throw the Pokeball at it and fight, not necessarily like do anything necessarily creative.
It's going to be interesting because someone mentioned that there was a dodge roll. They show a dodge roll, which to me shows that the Pokemon can be aggressive towards you, because why would you program a dodge roll in the first place if the Pokemon aren't aggressive? So my hope for what this game is you still have the Pokemon battles when you've caught them, but I'm hoping that catching wild Pokemon is like taming wild animals, is what I am assuming it is, where it is like, oh, if it's a big, massive Pokemon, it's going to charge at you, and you're going to need to get the hell out of the way. And you're going to have to try and figure out how to catch them. That's what I'm hoping. If they're going to convey Breath of the Wild in their trailer, I'm hoping they're thinking of the logic of Breath of the Wild and being like, okay, instead of it being like environmental puzzles, what if it is, what the environmental puzzle is the Pokemon in the world, and if you want to catch them, it's like, oh, I want to catch this big-ass... let's think of a big the Snorlax, right? If I want to catch this Snorlax, what do I have to do to get this Pokemon in a place where I can get to it, or, figure out its weakness so I can catch it? That's what I'm hoping it is. We'll have to see. I am more excited about this game. It's been a while since Pokemon's tried something interesting.
Do something new. Because they just seem to be in this kind of cycle of, it seemed to be a cycle of new generation, extra thing after remake, and then after that they threw in the Let's Go stuff, which was just
they kept going. Yeah, they kept going. They did like two generations, then a remake, then 2 generations, then a remake, and now they're doing this. So it's interesting. I'm looking forward to it, but we need to see more. Is my thing. I would like to see more of this game.
It hasn't grabbed me and shaken me and be like, this will be what gets you.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
honestly, like Generation 8 came by and I was like, oh, maybe I'll jump back into this series.
Mm-hmm.
And it released in, I believe, the same kind of area as Death Stranding. So I didn't buy it. And every time I've had an open window to play older stuff now, I've found other ways to occupy my time. So
it's going to be interesting. I like how there are 2 games and they're both, one's extremely faithful, one is trying something new. I like it. I also like that they're both attached to Sinnoh and Gen 4, so they're kind of giving you 2 different examples of revisiting Gen 4, which I think's nice. So I hope it pays off for them.
It's also cool that like the Legends subtitle implies that there's going to be more stuff like this.
It gives them room to, if it is successful, have another shot at it, which would be nice. I also like how there's only one version of the game. They aren't doing the 2 versions crap with an open world game, which is nice, because that would be extremely...
I mean, technically, it's, even though it's got like more production value than, let's say, a mystery dungeon or something, they don't typically split the spin-off games into 2, do they?
No, but it's weird because they're saying that this is the next iteration of the Pokemon franchise, not a spin-off. They are kind of classing this as a more of a mainline thing. It's closer to Let's Go than it is to Mystery Dungeon, if that makes sense to you. Yeah.
They did do Let's Go and 2 versions. I forgot.
So it's weird to me that they are. My only thought is, and here we are, is waiting room for Breath of the Wild 2. We thought Age of Calamity sealed the deal on November, and now this game's coming out in spring, which is extremely similar to Breath of the Wild. Now I'm just thinking, are we even seeing Breath of the Wild 2 until late 2022, Hunter? Are we even seeing this game anymore? That's the thing.
Pokemon can move over. I don't even care.
Yeah, but will it? That's the question. Probably not.
You're right. Pokemon is a machine that won't be stopped is the problem.
Exactly. But hey, we'll have to wait and see.
Like, even if this game isn't ready, I don't think it would get a substantial like push.
Yeah.
From its window.
Pokemon likes money, so yeah, there we go. Those are our impressions on Pokemon. Those are our impressions on PlayStation. If that was all you came to this little podcast for, thank you ever so much for listening. We'll see you next week. But for now, it is time for the true fans of HGO to rise up. And let me guess, half of you definitely clicked the timestamp to come to this part of the video. And if you did, hi, I'm not judging you. Let's talk Persona. So Persona 5 Strikers is finally out.
Indeed it is.
I'm going to start with a funny...
I'd never see the day that we get here in the West.
It was a running joke for the longest time where I had given up hope on seeing this game. And here it is. And I feel like I should start with a funny story. Last week, we decided to record the podcast early. So usually we record these on either Saturday or Sunday before you see it on Monday. That's usually the way that we go. Because you were busy, we decided to record early, and you ended up being away anyway, so we still had to film it on location.
On location.
Yeah. So the digital version of Strikers came out, and none of us bought it, and we were just like, fine, we'll just do it the week after. What we find out then is on Saturday, my copy came 3 days early, so we could have very easily have done first impressions, at least for me last week, but we recorded it early. So I've had extra time with the game, and Hunter's played more of it anyway. So there we go. I guess we should start off by saying we're going to be trying to be as spoiler-free as possible. Which means that we may go into bits and pieces, but in terms of actual story beats, we are just going to not touch them. We'll probably talk about... Well, there'll probably be gameplay spoilers. If you want to be like me and know nothing about the game going in, hey, maybe don't listen to this. Maybe go and play the game for a bit, then come back. We're in Dungeon 2. I'm not even going to say what the name of dungeons in this game is, for if you don't want spoilers yet. We will mention them in a minute. But for those of you who want to get out now while you can... Get to Dungeon 2. Don't finish it. Just get to the start of Dungeon 2. Come back. and hello, we can talk about it. But we're going to try and not talk about spoilers as much as possible. We're not going to ruin anything, I promise. So yeah, I was going to start by saying, hey Hunter, how far are you? But I guess I've just ruined it.
Oh yeah, I am in Dungeon 2. Thank you for asking.
What a coincidence. I'm also in Dungeon 2. I caught up today. I played for like another 3 hours because the in-betweens, the sections in between dungeons don't seem to be even that long. So you seem to get to another area relatively quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know where to start. What are your thoughts and feelings? What are your early impressions of Strikers, Hunter?
Well, you see, it feels surprisingly like a Persona 5 game. As one would expect.
Oh, that's it, Hunter. Get to Polygon with you. Off you go. You go write that article.
Yeah. So, honestly, though, I do like that the world of Persona 5 has become like comfort food to me.
Oh,
6 months after I've beaten Royal now, being sent to the alleyway in front of LeBlanc and just letting the music start, I was like, oh, that feels good.
Yeah.
I like this.
And it not be the same thing that you've retread, like it's new ground as well. Is great feeling. That's the thing to me is you saw all the articles jokingly saying Persona 5 Strikers is surprisingly a Persona game, and I'm like, shock of the century. But I think it is really important for me to state that, in my opinion, this is far more of a Persona game than it is a Muso game. If you are expecting a full-on Muso experience where it is just like a massive area with like 20 million enemies to beat up, it's surprisingly not really that game. It has those moments. There are moments like that in the game.
It does have moments like that, but the encounters are definitely smaller than Hyrule Warriors.
It's surprisingly very Persona in its gameplay as well as in its story. Its story is a full-on Persona game. If you're thinking that this is going to be just like a spin-off like Dancing, where you're like, oh yeah, it's got a story. No, this actually has a story. And a good one.
I heard the comparison that it's like the anime movie to the TV show. It may not necessarily be essential for consumption, but you'll want to do it.
It's the special. It's the special episode. It's the OVA. It's the summer holiday episode of the Persona 5 show. Is essentially what it is. But it is when people are saying it's a Persona game, what they essentially mean is it very much is a Persona story set in the world of Persona, and it's Persona paced. I think that's what's shocking to me most is this is a Muso game where there is a hell of a lot of time where you are doing what Persona likes to do, which is not play a video game.
Just advancing dialogue.
Which you can tell that it is a Muso game because they allow you to skip all of it if you would like to. You don't even have to fast forward. There's a button that just lets you skip the entire scene.
It's true.
Which why would you do? That's a horrible thing to do.
What would you do?
But it is very surprisingly Persona structured, where it will be a lot of dialogue, a lot of story, a lot of voice acting. Even more.
I feel like there's more voice acting in the smaller parts than there were in like the actual Persona 5.
I'm surprised how much of it. Yeah, I'm surprised how
this would have just been text.
I'm surprised how much of it is actually voice acted, and because most of the time I'm like, oh, you voice act. It's weird because it's jarring because a lot of the time in Persona 5 you just get used to the flow of what's voice, what isn't.
Yeah.
So much of it's voice in Strikers that when
it's actually weird when they don't have voices.
When they don't have voice, I'm like, wait, you chose this scene to not have voices? Okay, like it's weird. Because like even like if you remember in Persona in Persona 5 in the palaces, you'd have moments where something would happen in the palace and they'd react to it and they'd speak about it at the bottom of the screen. They'd be like, "Oh, the chandelier's dropped" or whatever. That is not an example, but context. That wouldn't be spoken in this game. When something like that happens, it's fully voice acted, and I'm like, wait, what? Like they're talking about getting the 3 MacGuffins, and Erika Lindbeck is saying that. I'm like, really? Like that's weird. It's weird how much of it is actually spoken. So
I'm not going to complain though.
I'm not going to complain.
Getting to hear them more, yes, please.
Yeah. But no, it very much the story feels Persona. One thing I will say is the exploration does feel a bit light. Where it's the areas from the game in the start because you're still in Tokyo at the start, right? So
Yeah.
you don't get the fancy animations. You don't get like the train swoosh of going on the train, or you don't get like
You don't
some of
even get
those
to
stuff.
walk into the train. It just
Yeah, you
takes
don't.
you to the next place.
Yeah, it's very much
To be
like
fair, this is more than I thought we were going to get. I thought it was going to be like, oh, take you to the map, go to the place.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. But it's very light in that kind of sense of exploration. And when you actually get to new areas, it doesn't feel as weird. For the first dungeon, it did kind of feel a bit jarring, where I'm like, oh, it's between Young and Jaya and Shibuya is essentially where you're exploring in the real world. But it very much feels disconnected, because you do genuinely just have Young and Jaya, Shibuya, and that's all you're going to, and a lot of the places are locked off. It kind of does feel it. But when you get to go to other places, slight location spoiler for the second area, you're going across Japan. So when I found out that you're going to Sendai first, which I was very excited about, because I like Sendai's like one of the few places where I'm like, oh, I get this place. It's probably because I've watched too much Abroad in Japan, and that's where he lives. But yeah, when it's like, oh, go to Sendai, and you actually do, and it is a nicely sized little hub, like it's a nicely sized little exploration area for you to go and
it's not bad.
Look at. And it's so weird. Like, oh, this is Persona 5, but it's not Tokyo. This isn't Shibuya. This is different parts of the country. I'm sure it's going to get even more jarring when we go to different places. I assume Kyoto's on the list. If Kyoto isn't on the list,
dude, I would like flip my top if you ended up in a like more secluded area and it turned out to be something that looked like Inaba.
Oh, I'm hoping.
Crazy.
I am hoping there's a town. I hope that there is like a little mini town, like kind of area in this game. No spoilers, please, in the comments if you have.
Please don't tell us. I want to freak out at my leisure.
But the exploration feels light at the start, but then when you get into you go into place to place, it does feel nice. It is like this cool little moment of, it's nice to be in Persona again, and actually have new places to explore, even if it does feel kind of artificial, because not everything's interactive. They do the cardinal sin of Morgana telling you where to go. It was very annoying getting to Sendai for the first time, and me wanting to look around this like little market that they had made, and Morgana's like, go look at the statue. I'm like, no, I want to look at the shop. Go look at the statue. No, I want to look at the shop.
I just got flashbacks to when I played P5 Vanilla.
Go to bed. No,
you can't make me. You're not my dad, cat.
So yeah, but when you're exploring, you basically, the exploration there's no confidence in this game. It's replaced with a system called bonds, which is do you want to explain what bonds are, Hunter? I'll let you explain it.
Essentially what it is this catch-all kind of bond with your team. Mm-hmm. So it'd be, I guess the equivalent would be like the almost similar to the investigation team social link in P4.
At least, yeah, except it's not a linear staggered stage thing.
Yeah, it's not a linear thing. Instead, it's got like, you get this little sticker collection where you can choose different things that you want to select, and it gives you different buffs, which is a neat way of doing this.
Mm-hmm. And there's no confidence in this game. Should specify that. There are, however, moments with your team where if you go and talk to them at certain points, you might go somewhere with a couple of them. You still have those Persona moments. For example, there's one where you, Ryuji, and Anne go to a ramen shop, and you still have those. You still have those very Persona moments. They do throw a lot of them in. As far as I can tell, Ethan's ship sailing business is not doing well in this game. No romance options yet,
especially for me over here.
Yeah, especially no, because
Katsumi is not present because of it being based on the original game and not Royal.
Mm-hmm. And even if you're like me and you're like, oh, I'll go back to Anne, it doesn't work. There's nothing really there yet. Maybe there'll be like a date or whatever in the game that you can choose, but there's nothing in that.
It wouldn't even work for me. Dr. Take Me is nowhere to be seen.
Feels bad. She's abducted. Yeah, she's gone with a Y. I like to. My headcanon now is those two are a thing. That's my headcanon. Fight me on that one.
It would work.
Yeah, you would, wouldn't it? But to make this a better little segue, even though Kasumi is not here, and neither is the boy Akechi either, just because these two aren't here doesn't mean that they haven't added some great new characters. You've got they've been replaced by Shorty and Gramps, or as they are they're supposed to be called. You've got Sophia,
humanity's companion,
the android sent by Cyberlife. So you've got Sophia, and then you've got, I do not remember the name of the detective because he's got a very Japanese
His name is Hasegawa.
Is it Hasegawa? Is it Zenkichi?
Zenkichi Hasegawa.
Hey,
that is correct.
High five.
Look at us go, putting it together.
Hey. Yeah, so Zenkichi, who's a detective, and these are the two new characters. Sophia's a new playable character, who is basically an AI that's taking you through these new dungeons. Who's a very interesting character. She's kind of playing the Morgana role, where she doesn't know what she is. She just knows that she's going to help. The
difference here is Morgana's still there to be annoying, so we can sit here and actually sympathize with this one.
Right, I'm going to say this, and I don't know if this is a controversial opinion. I think Morgana has been tamed down a tiny bit in this game. I don't feel he's as annoying in conversations as he was in base P5. It feels like it
really only pops up when I'm trying to do things and he's trying to prevent me from doing stuff. It's not really as irritating and actual cinematics and stuff.
So yeah, you've got these two new characters. Sophia is interesting. I like her. I'm interested to see where it goes. She plays really cool. We'll talk about gameplay in a bit. Zenkichi is the standout to me of the new two. I haven't seen much of him, but whoever is playing him, I just want to give like a mini round of applause to, because he's great. He is great. He is snarky, he's sarcastic, he is sassy, he's everything. It's great. I can't wait to see where this character goes, because I'm not going to spoil what his role is in the game, because I don't know it for the most part. But I'm not going to even spoil his initial role of the game. But he's basically guiding the Phantom Thieves across this road trip that they are on for a certain reason. But he's really well done, and it's like it's back to the Kasumi and Maruki thing, where before Royal, I was sitting there thinking to myself, how can you adding more characters to this game's going to be weird, because I'm so used to these characters and they're so good, it's going to be weird. But as soon as they show up, they just instantly fit.
It just instantly gels. It's amazing.
It's just like, oh yeah, of course the Phantom Thieves have this weird AI companion. Of course they do. Why not? So yeah, new characters are pretty cool, and I'm really liking the story.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
It very much
also, I feel like it's necessary to say that Haru is pretty good in this game, as opposed to
she's excellent.
How she got shafted in the other one.
So the first thing I noticed was, man, they've really worked on making Haru like relevant in this game. Not only is she fun to play, we'll talk about how the different playstyles work in a second and how the gameplay kind of works in the dungeons. But man, does she just she feels like she finally gels. I don't know if it was because in the original game, without spoiling the original P5, but I hope you've played the original P5 if you're interested in Strikers. Hunter? Oh, okay, you liked a bit. We're good. Technical difficulties, we're fine.
All right.
Haru comes into the story at a very dark point in the story. It's kind of where the tone shifts in the game, where it shifts from this kind of comedy zany, look at the Phantom Thieves go, to this kind of despair kind of arc where everything starts going wrong and they all like some shit starts going down. So Haru never really gets a chance to shine, because it's always doom and gloom for her and the rest of the characters.
And it's towards the end, and her confidant is walled by a social stat.
Mm-hmm.
All sorts of things that went wrong with actually getting to integrate her.
Whereas right now, she is honestly one of my favorites out of the characters that are in the game. She is one of my favorites in terms of story. Yusuke is still my favorite, and I think that he's so great. He's so good in this game. Like, that's the thing with the writing in this game, and it's the thing with the performances in this game, is these actors know these characters, and the writers, for that point, know these characters now so well that I feel like you're getting the best of them in a spin-off, which is crazy. where it's like you have these moments with Ryuji. There's a really funny scene with Ryuji within the first like 2 hours of the game, and it's brilliant. I'm not going to spoil it because you should go experience it for yourself, because I was crying with laughter. It felt straight. It was like comfort food. It was like, we're back. This is when I was like, yeah, we're back. This is it. But Haru has some great lines, really funny. Yusuke is as great as ever. Futaba at the moment, I love Futaba. She's great. I feel like Futaba for me right now, I feel like they need to turn her up a bit, because I'm like, I feel like we need a bit more Futaba. For me right now, I feel like she's sitting in this place where it's weird, where you've got people like Yusuke that are interacting more at the moment. But hey, we'll see as time goes on.
I feel like we're probably gonna get there. Like, her interactions with Sophia are probably. I feel like that's gonna go somewhere eventually.
Probably. But the one shock to me is, if any character in the Phantom Thieves right now is kind of taking a back seat, it's Makoto. Where I'm just like, wow, Makoto just really isn't showing up that much in this game at the moment, which is weird because she's a fan favorite out of the group. Like,
she's a fan favorite, and people joke that she became the leader after she joined.
And it's very interesting because it's like, most of the time when we talk about base P5, we always talk about how Ryuji and Ann kind of take a seat as soon as new characters start showing up, because they just kind of just become your close friends that have been with you since the start, so they don't really say much. Yusuke kind of feels like he has his moments, but he's very much left to himself, and Haru's completely irrelevant, where it does genuinely feel to me, Makoto's whole half of the story is about Makoto and base P5, so it feels weird to be in Strikers, and she feels like she's took a backseat to everyone else. They were like, hey, let's give Haru some time to shine, and man, people love Yusuke, let's get Matt Mercer some more lines. It's like, it's very weird.
It is interesting.
Makoto, because I was thinking about it, because as we were talking about how great all the characters are, I was like, yeah, Makoto really has taken a back seat in this game so far. Hopefully it changes, because I still do like Makoto. So
yeah, I feel like everyone's gonna get their own little moments here, especially with the way that certain things shook out with the first dungeon. I'm like, oh,
and the second one
yeah,
has
the
a
way
link
that
to
things
someone
are
else.
shaking out.
It seems like they're doing that. Oh gosh, did you see that? I just went to go push my glasses up. That's what you call a reflex, ladies and gentlemen. For those on audio services, I'm not wearing my glasses. Come to the YouTube video and find out what I look like without glasses. Wow. But yeah, they kind of link to characters, which I don't know if they're going to do throughout the whole of it, or if it's just a thing to kind of get us into the first two, because the first two, it very much feels like Persona 5, where the first two threats kind of seem smaller scale. I'm sure they're going to build up where they're going to be massive arsehole, like proper, like terrible people in the future. Yeah. But the first two, I'm like, they're a bit tame. They're very much like the first two chapters of Persona 5. In fact, they're not, because chapter 1's really tragic.
Yeah, chapter 1 of Persona 5 kind of goes pretty hard.
It's kind of like it's like the Madarame chapter twice to me. The first two, where it's smaller scale, but they're still good. With some great performances. It still works. But no. Overall, the story's really good so far. It's got to the point where I was going into it thinking, this is a game for Persona, this is a game that Persona fans are going to buy, but I don't know if the general, just like person that's like, I liked P5, would like this game. But I've got to the point where I'm like, nah, people are going to want to play this game if they play P5 in any shape and liked it. It's going to genuinely be one of those games. Let's talk about gameplay, because we haven't really talked about it. Do you want to go into how the gameplay kind of works in this one, Hunter? You're the Muso expert, reviewer of Age of Calamity. Go to the YouTube channel to see that review. It's a good little review. I agree with it.
Thanks, pal. But okay, gameplay-wise. So as we mentioned earlier, they don't really have the whole big open area with like a million things on the screen for this. It's more of ambushes are still very much present, where you ambush something and this basically eliminates the need to fight them most of the time. You ambush them, all-out attack, just straightforward molly-whopping, and you move on with your day.
One thing I've noticed is you can only do an all-out attack if they're weaker than you. If they're weaker,
Oh, really?
yeah. So if it's if it's
I didn't realize
if
the correlation.
if it's a red shadow, like in P5, there's blue, yellow, and red shadows. If they're blue, they're lower than you. If they're yellow, they're around the same. What I've noticed is, because I was doing a bit of grinding in the second dungeon just for fun to see what the differences were for some characters, and what I noticed was if it was a red shadow, I'd never get the option to all out attack unless I had an ability that was their weakness, and then I could do it. If they're blue, then you can just do an all-out attack and clear them straight away. It's kind of like a quick way of dealing with them because the game already knows that you're going to beat the crap out of them, is what I assume. So it's like, get that quick kill. And with intermediates, you also sometimes get them, sometimes don't, like the yellow ones. So I think that's how that works. Please do tell me if I'm wrong.
So yeah, smaller scale encounters with the occasional like bigger thing to make it take, more than just 2 smacks, which is all right. The thing that I've come to enjoy is that moving around feels better than just running from place to place, like in Hyrule Warriors, where I'd run out of things to kill, so I'd just be sprinting for like a minute to the next outpost.
It's weird because it is that Persona design of they are dungeons. They aren't these open fields like in a regular Musou game where you're just like running from point A to point B. They very much are dungeon designed. But at the same time, it very much does have a fast-paced kind of beat-em-up kind of combat system to it. So it's an interesting mix. Who are your favorite characters right now, I guess, is... if you want to finish that statement first, sorry, I did cut you off.
Oh, I was going to say, much like Hyrule Warriors, it does a good job of integrating things about Persona into the gameplay while still maintaining like the...
I think even more so than Calamity. Just the way
since you can use your personas and all of that,
you can use personas, and even the characters still feel like the characters, which is one thing that I will say. It's very, I don't know how they did it, but how the fuck did they manage to make characters that we only played with in turn-based combat feel like you'd expect them to feel? Like with Zelda, it's easy to go, okay, that's how Link swings his sword like this. This is probably how he would feel. And if Zelda, you've seen Zelda fight and stuff like that, that's how. But for them to be like, okay, how would Ryuji feel to play if his moveset was a hack, like kind of a hack and slashy kind of combat instead of turn-based? And it does feel like how you would play Ryuji in the turn-based strategy. In this way.
Like his triangle thing was be flinched less, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, or where it's like Morgana and Anne. If you play as Anne obviously deals less physical damage than the other two, and you can feel that, but she does feel faster like she is, and her magic still shreds like it does, and it feels.
And the whip is good for like crowd control.
The fact you can turn it on fire is also a nice little bonus.
Yeah, that's nice.
But man, they nailed the way. It does feel like those characters. It doesn't feel like... the first couple of battles, you'll be like, this is weird. But...
It took me a minute to get a feel for everybody, too, because of how short the battles were. I'm like, okay, I kind of wish I did have one of those big open field encounters to just get the hang of what all your animations look like. Once you do get that, it's really fun. That's what I was... Yeah. I was expecting to be like, oh, it's fine, but I'd rather the turn-based, but I'm like... It's a nice change of pace. I'm digging the fact
way
that they managed to integrate like the baton passing in a way that feels natural too is impressive.
And the fact that you can the fact you can just switch between characters on the fly and it boosts them up a bit as well when you do it is a nice little plus. The one gripe I have with that, I'll ask you your favorite characters in a second, but my one gripe with the switching is, and I know it makes sense because Joker is the leader. But man, I would wish that you could have because you can play as all the Phantom Thieves in this. You do not have to walk around as Joker. You can play as all the other ones in the roaming of in the dungeons, right? You can just walk around as the rest of them. My one wish would be, man, I wish I could take Joker out and play as the others. I just wish that we didn't have that leader locked. That's my one complaint is because
it's typical like Final Fantasy party.
It is because
I wish I could switch it up.
Yeah, because Joker, currently Joker's level 18 for me, and the rest of them are 15. So what I would usually do, if this was like Pokemon or another RPG, would be okay, take Joker out, I'll play as Anne, Ryuji, Makoto, and Yusuke for a bit. But you can't do that. And I wish you could. That's my only gripe, because unlike in base P5, where Joker very much feels like the anchor and the character that you need to play as, because you need him in your team, it feels like it would be really fun to be able to flex with all the other characters in this game, and not just have Joker locked in all the time. But that's my one gripe.
Because it's a Musou game, everyone is equally as capable as each other.
Yeah. And like all the Phantom Thieves are technically there, so it's not even like Hyrule Warriors where they lock Link in for a couple of missions because he's supposed to be there. It is just one of those things where it's like, man, because you can swap characters out on the fly whenever you want. You don't have to go to a safe rooms don't exist. There's checkpoints, but there's no safe rooms. You don't have to go to a safe room. You can just switch between them, and the game encourages you to switch between them as often as you like and find out what you like, what's going on. So that's my only gripe. Anyway, Hunter, back on track. Who are your favourite characters so far? Who are you digging the playstyles of?
Well, Joker, they obviously managed to do a good job on. I feel like they tend to nail the protagonist to feel like solid in each of these.
His switching feels good. It's one of those things where currently the Persona compendium is not as deep as the base is not as deep as the Persona 5's compendium. Let's make that clear.
It is not.
There are not so he doesn't feel as much of a wild card as he does in actual P5. He doesn't feel like he can.
I'll be honest though, I wouldn't have been shocked if they were just like, oh, you get Arsene.
Just Arsene. I was kind of expecting it to just be Arsene, to be honest. The fact that you can't.
It looks like Arsene is worth keeping though. Like, did you see how many skills he unlocks?
Yeah,
like,
he unlocks a lot.
Yeah. So I'm not getting rid of him anytime soon.
Yeah.
Which is fair, because I wouldn't be shocked if Matador wasn't in this game. And he was the one I would hold on to longer.
Feels bad,
man. Yeah, feels bad, man. But he was the one I would hold on to longer than I should have in the original game. Yeah. But now Arsene's just going to be slotted in there.
Yeah, but he doesn't feel as much of a flex character as he does in base P5. He doesn't feel like, oh, okay, Makoto's running out of SP, let's stick Anne in, and then if I need nuclear, Joker's got this persona or whatever. He doesn't necessarily feel that way because the personas are that limited in a way. They're not truly limited, there's still a load of personas, but it's not the full range.
Yeah, you can still cover every weakness with him if you got enough.
Just did it again. But someone write down in the comments if you've been watching this far, how many times have I subconsciously gone like that towards my nose? That'd be great, thank you. Anyway. But yeah, he's not as much as a flex as he usually is. Because a lot of the time, instead of me going, oh, especially with the SP system being so fucking... you lose SP so fucking quickly in this game. To the point where it very much feels to me where it's like, oh, this battle...
I save the magical weaknesses for, like, bosses, essentially.
Yeah. These shadows are weak to fire, right? I'm much more likely to be like, oh, Anne's in my party right now. Baton pass to Anne, and I'm just going to play as Anne for this entire fight now. Because Joker's SP is so limited, it feels like, oh, you can use him, but it's a lot more efficient to just bring in your other character or swap to your other character that's already in your party instead of doing both. But that's like, he plays pretty well. Who else have you been rocking with?
Yusuke with his, fun katana shenanigans.
He's a don. He's great.
Yeah. His regular, like, no combo triangle attack is basically a move from DMC. Mm-hmm. So that makes me happy.
I did like how he has a counter that's, like, kind of cool. I wasn't really expecting it. The first time I did it by accident on the first dungeon boss, which was awesome because they just went out for a massive attack and I just pressed it by accident and Yusuke was just sitting there like that and I'm like, what are you doing, you dumbass? And then he got hit and then he just like slammed it for massive damage. I'm like, oh, that looked smart. I'm just going to quickly save that clip because it looked like I was a god when actually I was an idiot.
Yeah.
But no, he's really fun. Yusuke, again, is... And kind of like how he is kind of underappreciated in P5 because he has a very similar role to Ryuji in the main game where he is this physical damage attacker. Yusuke just feels really fast and fun to play in this game where he just feels like I like Ryuji, don't get me wrong, but Ryuji very much is as you think Ryuji would play. He's very heavy hitting, kind of a bit sluggish, kind of like, get out of the way.
I enjoy with Ryuji, like, hitting the little flinch harder thing and then, like, charging up his baseball bat swing.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Fun to do.
Whereas Fox is very quick and agile, and I really like him. To be fair, I like how all the characters play in this game. It is very much. It doesn't feel like you're unlike in base P5. It doesn't feel like, oh, Morgana's a pure healer, so I'm losing damage input here. Morgana feels like, oh, Morgana can deal some damage as well as be a healer and stuff like that. It feels like you're very flexible in what you want to do with these characters, which is nice. Morgana still is my least favorite to play as, just because he's very floaty.
Agreed.
And I don't like floaty combat in games.
No,
it doesn't feel too great. He's probably my least favorite. Makoto has an interesting moveset, where she has her bike as part of it, but at the same time,
you just ride around and smack people.
But at the same time, with a lot of close quarters battles in this game, a lot of the corridors are very thin. There's like, the play spaces aren't just massive open-ended areas at the time. Sometimes you are playing in small areas. So to have Makoto cruising around on a bike at times, I'm just like steering it the wrong way, going, no, I don't want this, get me off. She feels a bit weird, but I like how she plays still. And surprisingly feels really good to play. She's one of my favorites, just because, like we mentioned, you can make her whip catch fire, and she just deals elemental damage from that, which is pretty sick, and it doesn't cost you that much.
I just got the thing where after you do that, you can just start more fire with triangle now.
Oh, can you? Is that one of her things? I haven't got it. I've only got it to like level 2, I think. So on that thing, but yeah, that's really cool. Haru surprisingly deals quite a bit of damage. She's quite a heavy hitter.
I mean, given that their weapon is like an axe,
her weapon
that makes sense. It's just in the original game, it's like, that's not what you would necessarily think.
Yeah, and then Sophia, or as she's called in the metaverse, Sophie, which was the dumbest conversation we ever had.
That was pretty silly.
That's her code name. It's just changing the A to an E. I picked it as the dumb option when they said, "What should we call it?" And I was like, Sophie. Because I'm like, yeah, they're right, that's not it. And they were like, yeah, that's great. I'm like, please don't tell me that was player determined. And I looked it up, and it was like, no, that's the right choice. I'm like, oh, that's dumb. But she has like these yo-yos. And she's a very weird character to play. I don't know about you, because she basically has this weird kind of, not a gimmick, but her moveset revolves around when you press square and you attack, or triangle to attack. When the hit actually happens, when she hits the enemy, if you press square again, it'll like boost her damage. Where it's like, it's a timing based thing where if you tap
the timing based
right
gimmick seems similar sort of to what they were going with her Bosa and Age of Calamity, where after the end of your combo you hit the thing and you recharge part of your meter and all of that for more damage.
Same, but to me it feels
different enough.
It feels different, but it also to me feels finicky, where I don't know if I like the way she plays to me, because I'm very much, you know how I like to play games, I'm very much not a count the number, oh, let me get the rhythm of this kind of thing. I'm very much, I'm like, I'll remember the combos, but I'm very much like, time to go all in, guns a blazing, like charging in. Monkey brain
was
jam
my
mashing.
favorite character to play as, and Hyrule Warriors, and Sophie is very much not my favorite in Persona Strikers here. So,
but no,
she's not horrible by any stretch of the imagination, but she's just kind of
But no, all the characters, they play really good. I like how the game feels, and it runs really well. One thing that I would like to...
It darn well better, this giant monolith that I've got over here.
Yeah, I should classify. Both myself and Hunter have been playing this on the PS5 version. We've been playing on PS5, which, fun fact, if you're on PS5, I'm going to tell you now, I told Hunter, is there's 2 modes for this. There's quality and there's performance mode. If you're playing on PS5, the quality mode runs at max frame rate anyway and doesn't dip, so you can just play it on quality mode anyway. Quality is 60 FPS. Performance is for mainly if you're just playing on a base PS4 and you want to lock 60. That's where you go to the performance mode for. I've heard some people complain about the load times on PS4. Apparently, the loads between the metaverse and just the loads in general are really long. One thing I can say is on PS5, they are not like that.
Nope.
They're really quick. The loads on PS5 are really quick. I didn't know this was a problem. It's like a 2 or 3 second load screen and you're back in. So, can't really complain. But the game, as far as I can tell, is running really well. I have not played the Switch version. I don't plan on it.
Probably the one that runs the least good.
Mm-hmm. But compared, that's my thing, is I'm loving it because it's like Age of Calamity, where I like the gameplay style and I like the loop. But also it's running really well, which was what Calamity didn't do. It's not like, I like that the game's running really well and it looks really good. And it's weird playing a Persona game in 60 FPS. It's kind of weird. It's like when I was walking around Young and Jai, I'm like, this is smoother than it is an actual Persona 5. And I'm like, that's weird. But no, I like it quite a bit. So overall, Hunter, what are your closing thoughts, I guess? I think we've covered everything that we need to cover for first impressions anyway.
I will say this much. As far as the way that they pace out the dungeons,
yeah,
I feel like that could be done just a little bit better.
Oh, I'm kind of agreeing with you. If all of them...
Because I feel like, okay, they do this thing where it's like, all right, this is the place you need to go, but obviously roadblock and distraction. They do the typical Naughty Dog thing where it's like, you want to get here, but you get here, and then there's like other things that get in the way of that.
Yeah, you're on a journey from point A to B, but the path between A and B is blocked, so you have to go from A to C to D and then back round to B to get there.
I feel like when you start getting distractions for the distractions of your distractions, it becomes a bit much, though.
Yeah.
Which is how this game has done this a couple of times, where I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, that's one of my gripes. My other gripe is, actually, thank you for reminding me, because I do have some negatives about this game. I was nearly not going to say them. I find that at first, when you do the first dungeon, and it's like get the three things, and then you can fight the boss. Well, you can't fight. There's other stuff in between, but it's basically go to 3 sections to get 3 things, and then that's basically you're done, and you can go. That you're ready. You're prepared for the boss fight now, essentially. And then the second one shows up, and I'm like, oh, it's a different setting, cool. But then it's like, you must go and get the 3 things, and I'm like, I really hope that however many of these dungeons isn't just get the 3 MacGuffins and move on. Like, I really hope that not, like, because the thing about Persona, the Persona 5 is each dungeon feels unique. It feels like you've got a unique set of obstacles ahead of you. It's not just do the same thing in a different looking place.
Yeah.
So I really hope that the others, it looks like they are going to all be get the 3 MacGuffins and move on, but I really hope they aren't, because second time round, I'm like, it's not, like, it's all right, but I'd rather there be some more interesting design around it.
Yeah, give you something a little different to do.
Forgot we didn't talk about music, by the way. We probably should talk about music.
They may have taken away our 2 shopkeepers, but the new shop also has a really good song. So.
Yeah. Most of the new music that they have added is really good so far. I like the new battle theme. The new intro song is the worst of the 3, but it's still good.
Yeah, it's still good, though. It's the thing. Like, I'm not going to sit here and hold it necessarily to the same standard as
true.
Wake Up, Get Up there.
Oh, yeah, of course, Flying High. But yeah.
I also haven't heard the full thing yet, because the intro is significantly shorter than the other 2.
Yeah. So,
maybe there's a verse, too, that really kicks it in high gear.
Yeah, hopefully. But all the other kind of music, like the dungeon entrance music, is a jam. Each dungeon does have its kind of own theme, but in the main starting area to each of the dungeons, it has its own. There's like this. It's kind of behind the TV. It's behind the TV, and it also slaps. It's a really cool song. I like it quite a bit. The actual dungeon music, I think, is a bit underwhelming, personally.
Okay, so the first one started to grow on me.
Yeah.
I haven't really vibed with 2 yet.
2 just doesn't really sit right with me. I'm like, it's fine, but this isn't Persona music. Come on, guys. I'm like, where's the jam? Like the first one, I kind of understood. I'm like, yeah, I get it. It's kind of I can get with this, but compared to what's in base game, I'm like, I'm not a huge fan of it. It's all right. There are some, like you say, the shop music's banging. Love it. I kind of really like the new overworld music, which I assume is the traveling music. When you're going around the overworld, when you're in these new locations, I assume each area doesn't have a new theme, and it's just going to be this is the traveling theme. But it's really damn nice. There's a Sophie has a theme whenever she's talking. Like that slaps as well. It's kind of like computery, like it's kind of got like digital glitches in it and stuff like that in the music, but really cool song. Really like it. So yeah, music is pretty good so far. I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Their usage of already known songs, however, is a bit interesting in some cases.
Hit and miss is the word I would use. Sometimes they are bang on, where they play they play like you're storming into the palace, and they play the palace, like they play what's it called? My mind's gone blank. Life Will Change. Thank you. They play Life Will Change.
When I got to that
now
the
we're
first
here.
time, I was like, yes.
Now we're doing it. But
coming out of the palace, the Sunset Bridge.
That was
weird.
You don't do Sunset Bridge dirty like that. Sunset Bridge is one of the best pieces of music in Persona 5. Stand by that one. It's such a powerful piece of music when it's used right. When it's used right, it can bring me to tears. When it's just used in an alleyway because they've left a dungeon, like
maybe they just didn't want to use Alley Cat.
I'm surprised Alley Cat hasn't shown up yet.
No, honestly, it was just weird. Oh, maybe Joker didn't stub his toe hard enough yet.
Maybe, but no, you are right. Like,
yeah, it's a little weird. Like the one that was jarring to me was when they were explaining, like when the Phantom Thieves were explaining to Sophia like what their deal is, and they just start playing "Swear to My Bones," the triumphant step up and fight. I was perplexed. I was like, I'm not going to complain that I get to hear this because I love the song, but also it seems a bit dramatic for this scene. Yeah,
they do use some of the music interestingly. Have they played Beneath the Mask yet?
Yeah, it plays when you in Yogen Jaya.
It plays in Yogen Jaya, but it only plays a little bit. It's not like there's no nighttime exploration really.
Notice, and it also played me enough to notice when they put the vocals in.
It's in like when you're in your bedroom at certain points at night, it will play it. But it's not. There's no nighttime exploration. So usually when I'm just used to, it's nighttime, it's time to go and listen to Beneath the Wax for 20 minutes. Well, I decide what I'm going to do. None of that's really there. But for the most part, it is pretty well done. I will say the cutscenes are also an interesting addition because you have your anime cutscenes like usual, but you also have these CG cutscenes, which have shown up before, but they're very differently like I don't know what it is. The animation's different to them, but I like it took me a while to get used to them, but I'm like I'm digging them. They're cool. They're cool enough. Yeah. They're interesting. But no, I think that's everything I have to say. Do you have any final thoughts, Hunter?
Oh, I was just thinking about the opening anime cutscene where Joker's like fighting the helicopter.
Oh, that's cool.
It just cracked me up because I was like, right, they made this basically while Royal was doing its thing, so they didn't have the grappling hook to work with. So Joker's just running across the building, which was also a power move.
It's funny watching that kind of stuff because it's like, Joker basically does like the biggest anime leap to a helicopter at one point, and I'm like, if they made this after Royal, he would have grapple hooked onto the helicopter and then like swung up on the skilled the hell out of it. But no, but yeah, that is kind of funny.
Amused me.
Right, final thoughts, Hunter. Go on.
Oh, this is a good time. If you liked Persona 5 in any capacity, pick this up because it's more of it. As far as all of the things that you would have really loved about Persona 5.
Yeah.
With the world and characters and story and all that.
It very much is a Persona game.
Yeah.
Polygon didn't lie. I keep saying it's Polygon. It might have not been Polygon who said that.
There were like a dozen people who said that.
Yeah, but it really is. It. One thing I say is, you might think you might not like it, but I think the gameplay might surprise you. You might like it and dig it quite a bit. Boss fights are really thrilling with it as well. They're scary. Boss fights feel scary in this game because you don't have the time to really think about it. You have to think while on the move, and it's really interesting kind of little dynamic. But the gameplay is refreshing enough to probably surprise you. And the story is very much a Persona 5 movie to the TV show adaptation, as you were saying. It very much does feel like you're home. You'll be surprised how much you're smiling within the first 30 minutes. It's especially in that first couple of hours, it's a very special feeling going back to these characters after the events of Persona 5. So it's great, and it continues to be great. The story is really good so far, and I hope that it keeps up. And I really hope that I don't cry at the end of this one. We'll see. We'll see.
Crossed.
Yeah. But there you go. Those have been our first impressions.
That'll be our first question for the spoiler cast.
What, did Ethan cry?
Yeah.
Please, yeah, do hold me to that for the spoiler cast. Please do ask me if I did cry by the end of it. Because chances are the answer's probably yes. But that has been our first impressions of Persona 5. Let us know if you've been playing it, how you feel in the comments down below. We'd love to hear about it. Also, let us know how you feel about the state of play and the Pokemon Presents thing as well. We'd be really happy to hear some differing opinions on those kind of things. And if you've listened to both sections of this podcast, congratulations. We really do appreciate you. Because, man, you sat through a lot of it, and we can respect you. 3 very different topics. So if you were into all 3, then wow. That's pretty great. But with that, that's been our show. Thank you ever so much for listening. Hunter, where can people find you?
YouTube.com/ReaperHunter23.
Very nice. You uploaded a video recently, which I think everyone should go and check out. Because I don't think we promoted it on the podcast. His other top 10 games of 2020.
My other top 10, where it was... Normally, when I make those videos, I don't have enough games released in just the year that I was talking about.
Yeah.
I normally don't play enough to actually be interested in talking about 10 of them. This is the way it goes most of the time.
Yeah.
Last year I played a lot of video games, so I was like, I can split this into 2 videos and be several months late on the second one.
Doing a gaming podcast tends to do that to you. You end up playing more games than you usually did. Same for me last year. But no, it's a good video, and you guys should go check it out if you haven't already. But yeah. And once you've gone and done that, you can also find me on Twitter and Twitch at Chaotic Ether. Thank you ever so much for listening. We'll be back next week with who knows. I honestly don't know what the next week will be. So stay tuned for that. Thank you ever so much for supporting us as always. To keep up to date with everything HGO, go to Hot Gamers Only on Twitter at Hot Gamers Only. Or head on over to the YouTube, bit.ly/HGOYT. All the links are on the Twitter and the YouTube. Anyway, if you want to go find us on podcast services, leave us a great review. We really would appreciate it. That's everything that we have for this week. We'll see you next time for more. But until then, have a safe week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Toodaloo.